So a person asked about today's photographers, some newer photographers that are kind of venting a little bit, that they don't come up and say hi and introduce themselves like some of the older established photographers would do. And I've seen this myself with different wedding, other vendors at the wedding, whether it's the videographer, the photographer, the photo booth. It used to be that, we'd kind of go and say hi. They'd come up and say hi and introduce themselves and let me know if they needed something. I don't have that. I don't see that as often. And they were saying that they weren't seeing it either. And I was wondering, I have a way that I deal with this, and I wanted to kind of throw it out there, is if this is a thing, and I think you guys are saying that you've seen it too, how do you deal with it? Let's give some advice with this. So, Cubbie, this is your turn to start this one.
Oh, shucks. Yeah, I do see that a lot with a lot of younger photographers. And I'm not trying to pigeonhole any sex, but I think female photographers, sometimes they don't come up all the time. And especially if they got a second with them, if they've got two of them, they're all off to themselves, right? They'll come up and go ahead, they'll introduce themselves, but that is about the extent of it. And then I give them a piece of paper and say, look, here's the batting lineup for today. It's literally the timeline. And I say, here's the timeline. I'm not going to do anything. Let me know where you're sitting. You're more than welcome to put your bag behind my, underneath my table, but, because I have a stand. So they also put me tables sometimes. Try to be as many as accommodating. Ask them to send me pictures afterwards. Make sure please watermark it, so I can mark it with you and things. But yeah, I don't know what it is, but younger photographers, just do not talk. And if they've got somebody with them, they don't come up and talk either. They just do stand off by themselves.
What have you noticed, Dan?
There's a couple occasions I'll say where I do run into that. A lot of times I kind of beat them to the punch, because by the time I get there, they've already been running around and doing their thing. So a lot of times once I see them, I'll just kind of grab their attention real quick. They're in the midst of doing something. I'm just like, hey, you just want to say hi real quick. And when you get a chance, come over. We'll talk about the order and everything else. I send it to them a lot of times ahead of time. So they've already kind of had some of that conversation with me via email. So it's not so much, I think for some of them, we've already talked, right? We don't necessarily have to worry about that. But I will also say that a lot of the time I'm working with the exact same photographers. I have a set of probably 15 of them that I am working with almost every time that I'm out. It's rare that I get somebody new. So a lot of times when they show up, we're talking, right? We're having a good time because we're friends and we hang out in that aspect, and we're getting a selfie with each other by the time the night's all said and done, just to say, hey, it was great working together again. Love to see these, the set. So yeah, I think, but to also to kind of Cubbie's point with like the newer generation, a lot of times the newer generation is very much a textual type of generation, right? Everything is done via words on a phone. So I think sometimes that face-to-face heat gets lost because some of those skills are not what they were to some older generations. And so sometimes I think if you haven't communicated prior to that day, that might be why you're running into some of those pieces as well.
Yeah, I think you're definitely hitting a nail on the head there with that idea. Yeah, I think you're also dealing with you're dealing with some people who are introverts, and it's not that way. They're not wired that way. And many creative people, i.e. photographers, can kind of, if a person's going to pigeonhole, are they going to be more charismatic or more of an introvert or, extrovert, introvert? They're probably going to fall more to the introvert side of it. So there's just some things I think that are all coming together, and it becomes one of those situations that it should, to a point, almost be our job, because we're usually there before they are, because they are off taking pictures and they get there. And, most of the time when I see somebody with a camera, there's many times I'm shaking hands to, Aunt Bessie, who's just taking pictures because she's got a big camera. It's like, hey, are you the photographer? Are you Jenny? No, I'm Aunt Bessie. I've got a big camera. That's pretty much how the conversation goes. But then when Jenny does get there, my way I like to break the ice is have this really, really, the maniacal stare across the room, that. And then then she's like, oh, that person wants to talk to me and, become my best friend. I can see it. That's the way I like to start the works every time.
And then she runs and hides.
Yeah, sure. But no, the idea of going and introducing and shaking hands, fist bump, whatever they're comfortable with, but just to do that. And then, as Cubbie said, is that here's kind of what's going to happen tonight. If you, there's, where are you going to be? This, that, and the other thing. See where you're seated. Are you going to need? Do you need anything from me? If there's anything, we're here to make each other's night better, type of thing.
What's big around here lately is these photography like groups. Like they got like 10 photographers in like a certain one company, and then there's like 4 companies and they have like a stable of photographers, and they're photographers that are just starting out that can't build their own business, so they're kind of working for this little bit of a larger company that will put all these photographers out. So I'll see the name of ABC Photography or XYZ Photography. Oh, I get to work with this person, and no, it's one of their people from their stable. So it's hard to build up. Like I said, Dan relationships, but I do have, like with Dan, I work with a lot of photographers and know them, and we have great relationships. And all the older ones that have been around the industry for a long time are very personable. It's just kind of like, to me, it's the newer ones, the momtographers that just got a camera and want to take pictures, and they're just not very, I haven't learned how to market or network yet. I mean, because I can send them a lot of business, I'm just like you guys can. Mm-hmm. If I enjoy working with them and they get their product out on time.
Yeah, they do a nice job, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely would refer them.
Probably the one that is still my biggest pet peeve when it comes to photographers is one who treats their clients well and doesn't talk dirt about them behind their back. As far as when they're like, yay, oh, smile there, Bobby, great, okay. And, he was drunk and hitting on you earlier. And then, oh, Susie, you look so great. Do you know that she is the biggest so-and-so ever? And it's like, oh, what? You're saying this? Yeah. Anyway. All right, we got a lot of questions lined up here, guys. So we're going to jump to our next one here.